Image copyright AFP. U.S. President Donald Trump has asked his country's top trade official to review China's practices regarding intellectual property. The move was incremental, but could eventually lead to the U.S. imposing trade sanctions. Mr. Trump is trying to balance working with China on relations with North Korea with his America First trade views. Beijing warned that it will not sit idle if the probe leads to sanctions. Mr. Trump returned to Washington to sign the order, which authorizes U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer to explore whether to undertake a deeper Section 301 investigation. If such a probe occurs and finds against China, the president could unilaterally impose tariffs, sanctions, or other trade restrictions to protect U.S. industries. The initial review is expected to take months. Why is the Trump administration concerned? Donald Trump has long railed against the massive U.S. trade deficit with China. The total trade relationship was worth $648 billion, £500 billion last year, but trade was heavily skewed in China's favor, with the U.S. amassing a nearly $310 billion deficit last year. Some of that deficit, the argument goes, is because Chinese firms are copying U.S. products and ideas and either selling them back to the U.S. at a lower price or squeezing U.S. imports out of the Chinese market. Concern over counterfeit goods and online piracy also predate the Trump administration. U.S. firms are especially upset about rules that require local partnerships a disclosure of intellectual property to enter the Chinese market, which they say facilitates transfer of their ideas. How much does intellectual property infringement cost? The Commission on the Theft of American Intellectual Property estimates that the annual cost to the U.S. economy from counterfeit goods, pirated software and theft of trade secrets is between $225 billion and $600 billion. The Commission says that China is the world's principal intellectual property infringer and that it accounts for 87% of counterfeit items coming into the U.S. In November 2015, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence put a cost of economic espionage through hacking at $400 billion a year. The European Union, Japan, Germany and Canada have all expressed concern over China's behavior on intellectual property theft. What was the reaction in the US? Trump called the memo a very big move, but also noted that this is just the beginning. The measure was overshadowed by controversy over his condemnation of the white supremacist groups involved in violence in Charlottesville, Virginia on Saturday, seen by many as dilatory. Top Democrats and Chuck Schumer dismissed the memo as tough talk without action. The U.S. already reviewed intellectual property practices in China earlier this year as part of a wider report. To make an announcement that they're going to decide whether to have an investigation on China's well-documented theft of our intellectual property is another signal to China that it is okay to keep stealing, Mr. Schumer said in a statement. Analysts for the Eurasia Group said the decision suggested the administration had decided to prioritize cooperation with China over North Korea. Rightly or wrongly, the White House believes that taking tough trade actions against China will harm its ability to elicit more cooperation from China on North Korea. This decision captures that prioritization more than any other to date, analysts wrote in a note issued on Monday. Unraveling trade system. Some critics say President Trump's push is a dangerous move that could cause the international trade system to unravel. While intellectual property theft and copyright infringement are major problems, pursuing them with such a blunt instrument could prompt China to take retaliatory measures, according to Deborah Elms from the Asian Trade Center. There will be a lot of collateral damage along the way. I understand the impulse to get tough, but if I were a company in China, I would be very worried about this, she says. There were hundreds of Section 301 investigations in the 1970s and 1980s, but the policy tool was largely set aside after the WTO brought into effect a binding dispute system, largely at the prompting of the U.S. Ms. Elms says that if the U.S. casts aside the system it helped to develop over 30 years, other countries might be tempted to act unilaterally too. What does China say? In response to the move, China's Commerce Ministry issued a statement voicing serious concern and warning this would definitely harm bilateral trade relations. If the U.S. side take actions that impair the mutual trade relations, disregarding the facts and disrespecting multilateral trade rules, China will not sit idle, the statement said on Tuesday. Official media in China have criticized the measure too. A Xinhua news agency commentary labeled the move outdated and said it would hurt both countries. In an editorial, the official China Daily urged the Trump administration to pursue a different path. It said the move could not be seen in isolation from North Korea and what President Trump sees as China's failure to rein in the country's nuclear ambitions and missile program. Instead of advancing the United States' interests, politicizing trade will only exacerbate the country's economic woes and poison the overall China's relationship, it said.